Hey, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Scenes of Underwater World. Ooh, so as you can see with this song, everything is watercolors, and the reason why is because this song uses chord patterns similar to some reggae music, but it's also very major and happy. So the reason why is because when I created this short little song, I thought of, let's say, a small fish on a children's show. What would the theme song of this small fish be? And this is the project. So with this project, I use 3 tracks. I also use 3 synths. So for this one, I use the Fruity DX10 synth. Again, this was available and it's also free. Come through with the free stuff, right? It's always free. Well, yeah, anyways, let's get into it. So for the first synth, this is for my synth movement. So this is like the plucking sound that you can hear that's really high pitched, like dum 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 dum, etc. So this one is a bit different. I kind of like the layout of this synth, not gonna lie, because it's very straightforward. It's very visual. And it's not too complicated. It's kind of basic, but it does have its own specific sound, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. But yeah, that was corny. But anyway, so what I did with this whole entire thing, we have our initial waveform. So this knob controls the waveform. So the more that is to the right, I believe, it's more like a saw wave or a triangle wave, I guess. And the more that is rotated to the left, it's like an actual sine wave. Did I say sine wave the other time? I meant to say saw wave. So saw wave, sine wave, and somewhere in between if you want. So this one, I wanted it to be a little more poppy and very, very bold. So I had it more tuned to like the sine wave side. This is a chorus knob, which affects like the octaves of it. And we have our low frequency oscillator, but it also adds a rattle to it. I personally was not a huge fan of how it sounded, so I had to play around with it. And this is like the vibrato of it, I believe. And we also have our modulation knobs, and we have a chorus knob, which is a bit different from this one. Our fine knob, I believe it varies on how much it modulates in terms of dynamics. Like if it's like, I'm about to impersonate this, but like if it's like, yeah, like that. I forgot what these other ones were, because they use a lot of abbreviations. Yes, they use a lot of abbreviations that I'm not quite familiar with. But we have our initiator, our time, sustain, and reflections. So what I did with this attack, it's not very immediate, because with this first one, remember, it's supposed to carry the overall sound of everything, really. It is supposed to carry the overall sound. So, yeah, being a plucked instrument, like a string instrument, I didn't want the attack to be immediate. I wanted to kind of build up just a little, maybe like a millisecond. The decay wasn't a ton, but it was all in the release, so that way the notes could be connected. So the initiator, I turned it down a little bit, so that way the first parts of every note would not sound harsh. I had the time up and the sustain up as well. So for the next track that I have is the bass synth. This is a dark blue, because it's the base of the ocean, I guess, if you can be creative like that. And for this one, it's a little bit different. So I did want it to be plucked, again, like an actual string instrument. So the attack is not immediate, as you can see here. And the decay is a little longer, but the release is shorter. So that way the notes can end not super abrupt, but they can end where they need to end, if that makes sense. So the initiator is a bit higher on this one, because I wanted the plucked sounds to sound a little more bold and clear and distinct. The time is a bit shorter in the sustain here. The chorus is down, the fine, everything here is down. It's lower than the ones I did before, because I didn't want too much to mess with the synth. I wanted to just be very straightforward with the bass. But the wave, that one was... what did I say? Oh, yeah. It's a little more in between like a sine and a saw, but it's more so on the saw side, because when I pitched it this low in the piano roll, it just wasn't loud enough, and I knew that I could gain stage it here as well. It just wasn't what I wanted. And I had the low frequency rattle, the same one as before, and no vibrations. So it was very, very straightforward, but it worked because you can hear it very well. And it's also kind of like the main melody of the song, if you think of it that way. So now I have the main chords, which is in between, like in terms of colors, in between this one and this one. We have this beautiful dark, just beautiful color blue. So the main chords of the song has, as I said, the main chords, it has the happiness to it. So what I did for this one, I had the attack a little bit slower, so that way it can swell up a little bit. Like when it hits the chords, it'll be like, wah, 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 wah. If that makes sense. The decay is a little bit longer and the release is short as well because as you can see on my piano roll, I need all the notes to be very distinct. Now the initiator is a bit higher, I think like a little bit higher than what I have on my bass synth. So that way they can all be connected. And as you can see right here on my chorus knob, it does modulate a bit more because I wanted the chorus to kind of be like, wah, wah, have their own vibrato, basically. The wave is right in between, so it doesn't sound too harsh nor too soft. The chorus knob, I kept it at the original octave that it's at. The low frequency rattle, I forget if I turn it up or down. I think I turned it down a little bit because I didn't like how it sounded with all the notes together. It just added on top of each other. But I really did not mess with this knob at all in this project, at all, I tell you. But I mean, maybe I will in the future. That's one thing. With this synth, they have a lot of really cool presets. I didn't really get into them, but what I did hear from the other presets, it does have that same general sound of the synth, but it's just a bit different, like a little bit different. But overall, I hope y'all enjoy this song. I really liked how it turned out because, again, it just reminds me of being on vacation. Or, as I had that character description before, it reminds me of a theme song of a little fish in a children's show whose days is just spent in happiness. That's the main message of the song, it's just happy. All right, enjoy the song and have a great day, everyone. Bye.